7 years ago, my father blew up our family by sleeping with my best friend. They built a happy life together like nothing happened. Then one quiet night, I discovered a secret that changed everything. My name is Jessica Jones, and this all started when I was 19. I grew up in Des Moines, Iowa. My dad, Daniel, worked as an electrician and owned a small company called Jones Electrical Services. My mom, Melissa, was an elementary school teacher who had the patience of a saint and the handwriting of someone who graded papers for a living. They had been married more than 20 years. The fourth person in our family, at least unofficially, was Jennifer Smith. Jennifer and I met in middle school. 7th grade science class. She sat behind me and whispered during a test asking if I had finished question 4. Somehow that turned into us spending nearly every day together. By high school, Jennifer was basically living at our house half the time. My mom loved her. She used to joke that Jennifer was her second daughter. My dad always treated her the same way he treated me. If he picked up pizza on a Friday night, he grabbed enough for both of us without asking. Jennifer even came with us on family vacations once or twice. Looking back now, that's the part that makes my stomach twist the most. Because at the time, I never questioned any of it. Jennifer was just part of the family. The summer, everything collapsed. I had just finished my first year of college and moved back home for break. I was planning to relax for a couple months and maybe find a part-time job before the fall semester started again. Jennifer was still around a lot that summer. She had just started working as a customer service representative at a local company, and sometimes she'd come over after her shift ended. We'd sit in the living room watching bad reality TV while my mom read on the couch. It felt normal. But if I'm being honest, there were a few little things that felt strange even back then. At the time, I ignored them. For example, Jennifer and my dad had started talking more than usual. Not in a weird way exactly. Just more conversations in the kitchen when I walked in. My dad asking about her job. Jennifer laughing a little too hard at something he said. It didn't raise alarms in my brain. He was 46. She was 19. That possibility simply didn't exist in my mind. The night everything changed was a Tuesday. I remember because my mom had come home tired from school and gone to bed early. My dad said he had a late service call to deal with and left the house around 9. I stayed up watching videos on my laptop until I got thirsty around 2 in the morning. Our kitchen light was on when I walked downstairs. My mom was sitting at the table. She wasn't doing anything. Just staring at her phone. Her face looked wrong, pale, completely blank. I remember asking Mom, "Why are you still awake?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she asked me something strange. "Jessica, have you talked to Jennifer tonight?" I frowned a little. "No. Why?" My mom slowly turned the phone toward me. "I think your father is having an affair." For a second, my brain rejected the sentence completely. "What?" I said. "With Jennifer." I actually laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it was ridiculous. "That's not even possible," I said. "Jennifer's basically family." My mom didn't argue. She just slid the phone across the table. Look. There were screenshots. Text messages. Dozens of them. My hands started shaking as I scrolled. The messages weren't subtle. There was no misunderstanding. They were talking about meeting up. About missing each other. About things people in a relationship say when they think no one else will ever read their messages. Some of them were from earlier that same night. One of them read, "Can't wait to see you tonight." Another said, "I miss you already." I felt like someone had punched me in the chest. "Where did you get these?" I asked. My mom's voice sounded hollow. "They were on your father's phone." I stared at the screen again. Jennifer's name kept appearing in the conversation thread. Jennifer. My best friend since I was 12. My dad. I kept waiting for some explanation to appear. A joke. A misunderstanding. Anything. But there was nothing like that. My mom rubbed her temples and said quietly, "I confronted him earlier tonight." My heart started pounding. "What did he say?" She hesitated. Then she said the sentence that changed everything. "He didn't deny it." The kitchen suddenly felt smaller. Like the walls had moved closer. "What do you mean he didn't deny it?" "He admitted it." The words hit me like cold water. My dad had admitted he was sleeping with my best friend. I pushed the phone away like it might burn me. "No," I said. "There's no way. Jennifer wouldn't." My voice cut off halfway through the sentence. Because suddenly I remembered something. Jennifer hadn't replied to my messages earlier that day. I grabbed my phone. My texts to her were still unread. I opened her contact and tried calling. Straight to voicemail. Then I checked social media. Blocked. Everywhere. Instagram. Snapchat. Even Facebook. Blocked. A sick feeling started crawling up my throat. "She blocked me," I said. My mom closed her eyes. "I think she blocked me too." Neither of us spoke for a long time. Eventually, I asked the question that had been sitting in the room the entire time. "Where's Dad?" My mom stared at the table. "He packed a bag." The silence stretched again. Then she said quietly, "He left." That was the moment our family ended. The next morning, the house felt like someone had removed the oxygen from it. Everything was still there. My dad's boots by the door, his coffee mug in the sink, the truck in the driveway. But he was gone. My mom didn't cry the way I expected her to. She moved through the house slowly, almost like she was afraid to touch anything. I watched her stand in the kitchen for a long time, just staring at the empty chair where my dad usually sat during breakfast. Neither of us knew what to say to each other. Around 10 in the morning, my phone buzzed. It was a text from my dad. "Jess, I know you're upset. I'm sorry things happened this way. I love you and I hope we can talk soon." I stared at the message for a long time. It was the first time he'd said anything to me since the night before. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I didn't know what to type. Anger, confusion, disbelief, it all mixed together until I couldn't form a sentence that made sense. Eventually, I just put my phone down and ignored it. My mom filed for divorce 2 weeks later. Everything moved fast after that. Lawyers, paperwork, long phone calls behind closed doors. My mom trying to explain the situation to relatives without completely breaking down. Meanwhile, the entire town seemed to find out about the scandal overnight. Des Moines isn't a tiny town, but news like that travels fast when the story is messy enough. An electrician leaving his wife for his daughter's teenage best friend? That kind of story spreads like wildfire. The worst part was that Jennifer never contacted me. Not once. No explanation. No apology. Nothing. It was like I had never existed in her life. A few months after my dad left, I heard through a mutual friend that he and Jennifer were living together in a small apartment on the other side of the city. I didn't believe it at first. But then I saw proof. Jennifer posted a picture online one evening. It was a photo of a dinner table. 2 plates. 2 glasses of wine. The caption just said, "Finally home." My dad's hand was visible in the corner of the photo. I remember staring at that picture for a long time, trying to process the fact that my father and my best friend were now a couple. Like it was the most normal thing in the world. My mom struggled that entire year. She had depended on my dad's income more than we realized. His electrical business had always paid most of the bills. Without it, things became tight very quickly. She picked up extra hours at school. Sometimes she stayed up late grading papers or working on lesson plans just so she wouldn't have to think about the empty side of the bed upstairs. I stayed home that entire summer to help her. I told my friends I just needed a break from college life. The truth was I didn't want to leave her alone in that house. About 6 months after my dad moved out, he tried to contact me again. This time he called. I almost didn't answer. But curiosity got the better of me. "Hello," I said. There was a pause on the other end before his voice came through. "Jessica." Hearing him say my name felt strange. Like I was talking to someone I used to know. "Are you okay?" he asked. I let out a short laugh that didn't sound very friendly. "You left our family for my best friend," I said. "What do you think?" He sighed. "I know you're angry." Angry. That word felt way too small. "You don't get to say that like this is some minor mistake," I told him. "She was 19, Dad." "I didn't plan for this to happen," he said quietly. That sentence made something inside me snap. "You didn't plan it?" I said. "You were texting her for months." He didn't respond to that. Finally he said, "Jennifer and I care about each other." Hearing her name come out of his mouth made my stomach turn. "She's my age," I said. "I know." Those 2 words made the conversation feel even worse. I realized right then that he wasn't going to apologize in the way I wanted him to. He had already justified everything in his own head. "Are you living with her?" I asked. "Yes." That was the moment I stopped trying. "Don't call me again," I said. Then I hung up. After that, I cut contact completely. No calls. No texts. Nothing. About 2 years later, I heard the news that felt like the final insult. My dad had married Jennifer. They didn't have a big wedding or anything. Just a small ceremony somewhere outside the city. But it didn't matter. The fact that it happened at all was enough. I remember my Aunt Elizabeth Anderson calling my mom the day she found out. She said, "I thought you should hear it from family first." My mom sat on the couch holding the phone for a long time after that conversation ended. Then she finally said quietly, "Well, I guess that chapter is officially closed." But it didn't feel close to me. It felt unfinished. Years passed. I eventually finished college and started working as a web developer. My life slowly moved forward. I got my own apartment. Made new friends. But I never spoke to my father again. Not even once. The strange thing about time is that it dulls the sharp edges of anger, but it doesn't erase the memory of what caused it. By the time 7 years had passed, my life looked stable from the outside. But something inside me still hadn't settled. Then one afternoon, something unexpected happened. I was having coffee with my cousin Rebecca Moore, who worked as a financial analyst in Columbus, Ohio, but happened to be visiting family in Des Moines. We were sitting in a small downtown coffee shop catching up when she asked a casual question. "Do you ever talk to your dad anymore?" I shook my head. "No." She nodded slowly. "Probably for the best." Something about the way she said it made me look up. What does that mean? Rebecca hesitated. Then she said something that would eventually change everything. I've been looking at some business records connected to local contractors, she said. And your dad's company came up. My stomach tightened. Why? Rebecca stirred her coffee slowly. Because the numbers don't make sense. I frowned. What numbers? She leaned back in her chair and lowered her voice slightly. Revenue reports, tax filings, payment records. I stared at her. What are you saying? Rebecca met my eyes. I think your dad might be doing something illegal with his business. At that moment, I had no idea that conversation was the beginning of something much bigger. And eventually, much more personal. When my cousin Rebecca Moore told me the numbers in my dad's business didn't make sense, my first instinct was to shut the conversation down immediately. I hadn't spoken to Daniel Jones in years. I had built my entire life around the idea that he simply didn't exist anymore. Hearing about his business felt like someone reopening a door I had intentionally nailed shut. So I shrugged and said the safest thing I could. Honestly, I don't really care what he's doing. Rebecca watched me for a moment, like she was deciding how much to say. I figured you'd say that, she replied. Then she added, but it's still strange. I tried to keep my tone neutral. How strange? Rebecca worked as a financial analyst, which meant she noticed patterns in numbers most people would never see. She explained that she had recently been reviewing financial reports connected to small contractors in the region. My dad's company, Jones Electrical Services, had appeared in some of the data. And according to her, something about it didn't add up. Income reports are inconsistent, she said. Some filings show far less revenue than other records connected to the same projects. Maybe accounting errors, I suggested. Maybe, she said. But she didn't sound convinced. We finished our coffee and changed the subject. I told myself the conversation didn't matter. My father's life was his problem now. Still, the thought stayed in my mind longer than I expected. Over the next few months, little things started popping up that made Rebecca's comment harder to ignore. One evening I was scrolling through a local community forum online when I saw a post from someone named Kevin White. I recognized the name immediately. Kevin had worked for my dad years earlier as another electrician. His post was angry. He claimed he had completed several jobs through Jones Electrical Services and had never been fully paid. According to him, the company kept delaying payments and making excuses. A few people in the comments said they'd heard similar complaints. I stared at the screen longer than I wanted to admit. At first, I told myself it didn't mean anything. Small businesses have disputes all the time. But then a second comment caught my eye. Someone mentioned that my dad had recently partnered with a contractor named Brian Jackson on a renovation project that had ended badly. Apparently, there had been arguments over money. Again, it might have been nothing. But once the idea had planted itself in my mind, it was impossible to completely ignore. I called Rebecca one evening. Hypothetically, I said when she answered, if someone thought a company was hiding income, how would that even work? Rebecca laughed softly. Jessica, are you asking about your dad again? Maybe. She didn't press me. Instead, she explained that businesses sometimes underreported earnings or moved money through different accounts to reduce the taxes they owed. It's not always easy to prove, she said. But if the patterns are obvious enough, eventually someone notices. After the call ended, I sat on my couch for a long time thinking about everything that had happened in the past 7 years. My mom working extra hours just to keep the house. My dad posting pictures online of vacations with Jennifer Smith. Their new house. Their new life. It felt like he had burned everything down and walked away without consequences. And that thought bothered me more than I wanted to admit. Still, I didn't act on it. Not yet. Almost another year passed before the moment that finally pushed me over the edge. It happened on a completely ordinary Saturday afternoon. I was walking through a grocery store in Des Moines, grabbing a few things before heading home. I had just turned into the produce section when I saw them. My father. And Jennifer. For a second, I thought my brain was playing a trick on me. I hadn't seen either of them in almost 5 years. But there they were. Jennifer looked almost exactly the same. Maybe a little older, but still recognizable instantly. My dad had more gray hair than I remembered. They were standing next to a shopping cart, talking quietly. Then Jennifer looked up. Our eyes met. Her expression changed immediately. She looked nervous, like someone who had just seen a ghost. My dad turned to see what she was looking at. When he noticed me, his face froze for a moment. Then he tried to smile. Jessica, he said. Hearing my name come out of his mouth again felt strange, like it belonged to someone else. He stepped closer, hands in his pockets. Hey, kiddo. Long time. Kiddo. That word hit me harder than anything else. Like the past 7 years had never happened. Like he hadn't destroyed our family and married my best friend. I kept my voice calm. Hi. Jennifer didn't say anything. She just stood there beside him, staring at the floor. My dad cleared his throat. How have you been? Fine. The conversation felt painfully awkward. He tried again. Your mom doing okay? That question almost made me laugh. But I held it in. She's doing better than she was, I said. He nodded slowly. Good. For a moment, none of us spoke. Then I said the only thing that felt honest. I should get going. My dad nodded again. Yeah, it was good seeing you. I didn't respond to that. I just turned and walked away. But the encounter stayed with me the entire drive home. Something about the way he had spoken to me. The casual tone. The word kiddo. Like everything that happened was just some uncomfortable misunderstanding. That night I opened my laptop. For the first time, I started seriously looking into my father's business. Public records. Business filings. Anything I could find. At first it was confusing. Numbers. Documents. Contracts. But slowly patterns started appearing. Income reported in some places, but missing in others. Payments listed under different accounts. Project values that didn't match tax filings. It wasn't the kind of thing an average person would notice. But once you started looking closely, it didn't feel right. I spent weeks quietly gathering information. Then months. Part of me kept asking the same question. Was this revenge? Or was it simply the truth catching up with him? Eventually, I stopped trying to answer that question. One night, almost a year after the grocery store encounter, I opened the official IRS reporting website. There was a section for anonymous tips about potential tax fraud. My heart was pounding while I filled out the form. Company name. Business address. Details of the suspicious activity. I attached the documents I had collected. Then I sat there staring at the submit button for a long time. Reporting him would change everything. Even if nothing happened, it would still be a line I could never uncross. But then I remembered my mom working late nights just to stay afloat. I remembered the messages on that phone. And I remembered the word kiddo in the grocery store. Finally, I clicked submit. After that, life went back to normal. At least on the surface. Months passed. Nothing happened. I started to think maybe the report had gone nowhere. Then 3 months ago, my Aunt Elizabeth Anderson called me. Her voice sounded tense. Jessica, she said. Have you heard what's going on with your dad? My stomach tightened. No. She paused. His company is under investigation. Apparently government auditors had started examining Jones' electrical services. Accounts were frozen. Financial records were being reviewed. The details were still unclear. But from what my aunt had heard, it was serious. Serious enough that my dad might lose the business entirely. After that call, I sat quietly in my apartment for a long time. I didn't feel the rush of satisfaction I expected. I didn't feel guilty either. Mostly I just felt calm. For years it had seemed like my father destroyed our family and walked away untouched. Now things were finally balancing out. No one in my family knows I was the one who reported him. Maybe they never will. And, honestly, I'm not sure I want them to. I still haven't spoken to my dad since the grocery store. I don't know if he's figured out who reported the company. I don't know if he ever will. But sometimes late at night I think about everything that happened. The affair. The divorce. The years of silence. And the decision I made with one click of a button. Part of me wonders if revenge makes a person just as bad as the person who hurt them. But another part of me thinks about something else. For years my father lived like nothing he did had consequences. Now the consequences have finally arrived. And whether that's karma, or something I helped start, I'm still not entirely sure how I feel about that.